Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are joined by the amazing Caroline Ritchies
Oh,
in Leeds. I'm just going to let everybody else in. There's another person joining us, but I'm going to pin you. Let me pin.
hi Tracy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Sorry I didn't get to see you last time.
I know. Congratulations,
Thank
though.
you, love. Thank you.
We're recording, so thanks for the hellos. Uh, anyway, nice to see you, Tracy. Hopefully, you're feeling better.
I'm getting there, thanks. Yeah.
We can come to that. So I was just saying, we've got Caroline here, and we're just going to go through some of her work. And I've got a presentation I just want to bring up. Let me just share that. So can you see this okay, Caroline?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Okay. So the Still Life Award. I guess we can come to this piece because I've got it at the end as well. So it's sort of the final piece, and we can discuss it at the end. And I know a little bit about it, but also what I wanted to discuss is that you entered a lot of other work, and it'd be nice to go through them and see, I guess, what your thought process was and your
Yeah.
ideas and so on. So let's just go to the next one. So there's this piece that you entered.
Yeah.
If you want to explain it and kind of go through it a little bit to give us an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. So it's the Maison Margiela couture piece just from last season, 2022. Very quickly done actually, probably quicker than some of the other pieces that sell at perhaps this did sell, so it was a bit of an experiment really, but yeah, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, wanted to really capture the essence of the show, and just that gaze of that girl looking a little bit behind, which I actually find side views of faces pretty tricky actually. So I managed this one okay. But yeah, just the couture shapes, the reference, historical reference, probably old Balenciaga in there perhaps. And that's what I'm really interested in is when I illustrate, I suppose I tend to go for garments that have a little bit of historical reference in them. I love John Galliano. I think he's a creative genius. So yeah, I work in layers generally, but there's not that many layers in that one. It is acrylic paint, oil pastel, and some red spray paint. What I tend to do when I'm working is I'm quite a messy worker, and I put all my materials on the table. So whatever I want to use at that sort of moment in time, I just grab and use it. And it's something I try and encourage my students to do as well, because generally they might turn up with just a few, I don't know, watercolor pencils, and you can't do much with it. I find that you can't be a mixed media artist unless you've got everything out to start off with. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's how I work. It's just sort of intuitive, and I'll pick up whatever and try and get that little bit of a moment down fairly quickly.
The paper size is about
A2.
A2.
Yeah.
And is it brown paper? It's like a not off.
Yeah, it's like it's I can't remember what they call it. Just like a beige color. I think it's. I just buy it from Amazon. Shouldn't advertise. Yeah, I just buy a pack of it, and it's my favorite paper to use because it's great for whites. Obviously,
Yeah.
I think people that, if you want to work with white, you need some background.
Yeah.
And I think when I was a student, we always used to do a wash on our, this is way back on foundation, but you used to do a wash on your white to work on top of, very
Yeah.
rarely just on white paper.
Yeah, and it really
Yeah.
gives it I it's funny because they kind of push you to not use white as a color, but
Mm,
white against the color really pops, and
yeah,
it sort of
yeah,
zings, and it has a nice sort of feel to it, and I do like the white, and I guess
yeah,
fashion does use a lot of white. There's a lot of
yeah,
white in
yeah.
fashion, which is
I
quite
think
important.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning there is a bit of palette knife work on that, just a little bit at the end,
Yeah,
a few little swishes.
yeah. And,
Yeah,
and, and
I'm enjoying that at the moment. I want to do more of that actually.
yeah, I
Yeah,
like the introduction of the spray paint as well. I think that's quite nice.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
sort of brought that in and this sort of speed to it. And
yeah.
you don't know, but you're quite a controversial artist
All
that,
right.
that I get feedback about
All right.
because people are unsure about your work. So it's quite
Yeah,
interesting. Your work is either a little bit Marmite based, they don't
yeah,
understand it.
yeah,
And I think, like for me, I can see a bit of Giacometti and Francis Bacon when I see them.
yeah, yeah,
They're the two sort of artists that trigger to me. And I
yeah,
think, like you talk a lot about history, and if people did a bit of research in the history of art and go through the journey, you can see a bit of your referencing from art
yeah,
history. So it's quite
yeah,
nice to see that. But that takes time. It's like anything, you have to mature the palette to understand
yeah.
what the artists are making. So
Yeah,
it's,
I
it,
mean, I do have a bit of a background in art history as well, so it is really important to me, and I do reference it, and in some ways I want to look at it a little bit more next year. That's
yeah,
just what I'm thinking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
And I do get a feeling a bit of Giacometti,
Oh,
definitely,
thank yeah.
which is quite a nice one. So this one, explain this one.
So it's a Romeo Gigli, I think 2021 piece, a designer that when I was a student we all absolutely loved. I have met him actually. I met him at a conference at Salford University, so that was a bit of a moment. We did a workshop with him, so I got to sort of make a toile with Romeo Gigli. So I thought it was quite nice to do something of his work. He's not as maybe as popular as he was. So yeah, that's what that is. And again, that is probably my technique, the layers
Yeah,
there. So I work in layers to because I enjoy it, but another reason I can fit it in with my life. I've got two children, and one's still at primary school. So I take on my days off, I get a layer down, go and do the school run, do it whatever, another layer. So I never sort of, unless they're very quick, like the one before, I step away from them quite a lot. I
yeah,
don't know if many fashion illustrators or artists do that. I think they sort of labor over it in that moment and don't leave it. But I think I don't do that. I do step away. I leave things, come back to them, and it is for time reasons. But I think it suits me because I don't have the best attention span, actually, believe it or not. I get bored quite easily, so it suits to go
yeah,
away and do something
yeah,
else.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thinking behind that. I can see the Giacometti now that you've mentioned it. I can see because I do like his drawings and paintings. I really do, and I can definitely see that. And it was probably just as all artists do. They don't realize they're doing it, do they? They sort
Yeah.
of reference things without fully knowing. I think, yeah, definitely in that background. Is that what you saw in it then, Patrick? Yeah,
Well, I can see a bit of Franz Klein. I can see
yeah,
some of the American expressionists,
yeah,
uh, and it's interesting, like Christo and people like that who grid out the page. So you
yeah,
you put a line of the square on the
yeah,
page, and then you
yeah,
work within that frame,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like as if someone was commissioning you to draw within a certain parameter, like space.
yeah,
Lots of people don't do that, but you see certain artists who do, like Christo and Giacometti used to grid out the outside, and then he'd grid
oh
things
yeah, yeah,
and work this very layered process. And I find that because you do that layering process, that Giacometti comes to mind, and you kind of have these sort of very sort of angular brushstrokes that
yeah,
brings in, I think of Jasper Johns. There's
yeah,
lots of
yeah,
people that kind of cross my mind when I look at your work, and I feel that people don't really understand that when they look at it.
yeah,
They just see, is it a fashion illustration? Is it decorative? And is it pretty? And that's not what I want to see.
All
So,
right, okay. But
so
yeah, I always work, I do, but more often than not, have to have that border to start.
yeah,
And I can't do it unless I do that. But what it's quite nice when you sell into a gallery as well, because they've got their framing space either side.
yeah,
And I think one thing that it drives me a bit crackers when I see fashion illustrators squashing their work onto a page, like they're running out of space. I'd rather sort of see it, a piece of paper stuck on the bottom. And the students do it all the time.
yeah,
And I sometimes think there's this kind of like, oh, fear of working bigger. You know, if I'd like to work much bigger than this is just manageable on a kitchen table. But yeah,
it'd
definitely
be
the
nice to
frame
see
is
them bigger.
important.
It'd be great to
Yeah.
see them probably A0.
Oh yeah.
That would be a great, like, even if you put them on the wall, and
Yeah.
then because you work on top of a sort of like an easel thing. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
It's just a yeah, it's one of those desktop easels, and then
yeah,
I just prop it up because I put all my paints next to me on the table. I find it easier than an easel with a trolley or whatever. It's just how I work. But I've thought next year I need to really come into work and use the space at work when the students aren't around, because
yeah,
it's never really occurred to me that I have got that access. I just got to do it when, I can't be captured.
yeah. That,
Yeah,
I guess that's the
yeah,
hard part, is when you're at
yeah,
school, you get captured,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think that's the fun part. And then there was this image as well.
yeah,
This is a total whirlwind of stuff.
yeah. So this is the Bloomsbury inspired Dior menswear collection, and I love the collection. I do enjoy drawing menswear. Actually, I quite enjoy designing menswear, but just that real. I suppose that is my mark making style, and I again, there's everything on there. There's acrylics, watercolor, oil pastel, felt tip. That might be about it. Some might be a bit of highlighter pen, I'm not sure. But yeah, that was again very quick, and that's when I'm in that mood for attacking with a bit of varied mark making. I suppose I draw to my mood at that time, and that was how I was feeling, a bit of absolutely everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, there are the layers there. There's the white paint. I think white's important to lift certain areas. I don't suppose there's any real focal point there, but I do use red lines, red mark making for that reason, sometimes to draw your eye in to
yeah,
certain areas. So yeah, I don't quite know what I am. I don't know whether I am a true fashion illustrator or part artist. I think we're all afraid of sort of saying that. Especially when I've got a mother that is a fine artist, so I think she's baffled by some of my work. But anyway, it's just a mark making exercise, and
yeah.
that's what I wanted to put across.
And I think a lot of people who have
Yeah,
started as fashion illustrators have gone on mainly to be successful artists. So
yeah,
you've got the Warhols and people like that.
mm,
I don't think the medium and the content that you're drawing is actually a problem, because it's quite
yeah,
figurative.
yeah,
um, and you're covering culture, you're covering relevant areas, and fashion is really inspired by art. So there's lots of inspiration in there, and it sort of mixes it all up. And it's nice to
mhm,
have a sort of a figure. And I think I think fashion illustration is a really tough topic, because
yeah,
it used to be studied, and one of our, I guess, ambassadors, Audrey Schlill, she worked at Ralph Lauren, and she studied fashion illustration with Steve
mm,
Stiepelman and people like that.
yeah,
So she's very in the know, and she has a pure, what I would call a fashion illustrator style, with that sort of like mark that's quite almost spontaneous, lines to get the shape or the silhouette. Where I
Yeah.
think the contemporary fashion illustrator is more arty and much more gestural, much more experimental. And we're seeing a big shift in what fashion illustration is.
Yeah.
That's why it's got this sort of space between artist and fashion illustrator, because it dances between both. I think the content is about fashion and the outcome is using artistic approaches to drawing fashion. And I think
Yeah.
that's where the confusion is
Yeah.
at the moment. And I think that's because it isn't a fashion illustrator. And when we have shown people that I would call classic fashion illustrators, and if you put it in an exhibition space, it looks very basic. It doesn't really hold the ground of what the artists do. So if we went and saw this, there's much more a depth into it and much more playfulness and experimental. And I think that's the direction I think we're kind of heading more. And
Yeah.
well, we play with all areas. We don't we're not looking for pretty stuff, but we do embrace it all and see, and it's nice to have a sort of conflict. I like the conflict between all the different styles, and I think that adds a little bit of an edge to what we do. So hopefully that comes through. So
Yeah.
and then I wanted to put this piece in because I thought this was kind of a really smart piece, because you really play with perspective. I don't know if you deliberately did, like the foot leading you into the image.
Yeah.
You've got these perspectives drawing you into the garment. Then the hat. There's lots of triangles. If you think about all the rules of image making and art making, you like I think of the futurists and the vorticists. I look at your work as well. So there's a real, I don't know if it's deliberate from you, but it's a case of this really clever way of capturing. It's like an eclectic mix of drawing, because you've got these sort of futuristic shapes, which remind, when you go to the Tate Britain, you would see all of these sort of sculptures, and they had that sort of angular. You're willing to break down the forms to capture the silhouette even more, to accentuate it. That's what I find is quite fascinating about this piece.
Yeah, and I think I was under a bit of pressure because this was a commission. I don't generally work to commissions. It's generally I do whatever and try and sell them. But no, this was asked for, if you like. So and yeah, I did think about the focal points. I did think about the bits of red in certain areas. It's quite thought through, but the background, there is a little video of me painting that, and it is pretty quick. But I'll let you into my partner is an illustrator for the car industry. He's worked in Germany a long time. He works for Lotus now, so he's super accurate. It's technical illustration, and he said that curve on one of those wasn't right, so and he did sort of help me with that curve on the right hand side. Other than that, so there is some proper perspective in there, if that makes sense. So it is nice sometimes to have another set of eyes, even though we're complete worlds in terms of illustration, complete worlds apart. But there are two illustrators in our house, so yeah,
Wow.
he helped me with that.
That's a tough one. Two artists.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
You're brave.
Yeah, no, usually we just don't get involved. I mean, I couldn't, yeah, it's all CAD, but yeah, and I'm just not CAD at all, completely the opposite. So it's quite nice to have that real sort of separation in styles of illustration. But yeah, I mean, it was a gift, the reference anyway, because the reference we've all seen it. It is such a wealth. Whether it was well thought through, the photograph at the time, but it's pretty good in terms of an iconic image, I suppose.
Yeah, no, really, I loved it.
Yeah.
And then this one I thought was really, there was an illustrator called Graham Ralphway. I don't know if you know Graham Ralphway. He went to the Royal
Oh,
College,
I know the name.
and he
Yeah.
was the creative director for ID magazine.
Yeah, I do.
And
Yeah.
he was an illustrator. He used to illustrate for the Free Club in London, and he used this sort of very graphic black lines. His style wasn't totally like this, but it felt very cultural. He, like this is quite punk, quite aggressive.
Yeah.
And I feel, if you were covering the top of the head, it feels like an abstract expressionistic piece,
Yeah.
that could play with the Jackson Pollocks of the world. And
Yeah.
I felt this is a really commanding piece that I feel that only certain people will love and hate. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's nice about your work.
Yeah.
Really topical. And you
Yeah.
probably don't know that, but I do, because lots of
No.
people talk to me about it.
Yeah. I think yeah. I think when you get to a certain age, I mean, I'm not ancient, but you do start to care less what people think, if that makes sense,
Yep.
about your work. It's like, oh well, if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, that's fine as well. So yeah, and I did want to get it's a Dior dress actually, and it probably is a lot prettier than that, the image. But I wanted it to be a bit more edgy, and the girl not to be too pretty, etc. But there's a lot of spray paint on that actually, a lot. So I suppose that's a bit more, not necessarily aggressive. I can't think of the word, but there's layers of I just want to create that dynamism, if that
Yep.
makes sense, and a bit of
Yep.
movement.
Yeah.
And I think the way I was taught to draw, I mean, I had an amazing tutor from the Slade actually, and it was constantly all about weight of line, weight of mark, and we were taught that drawings were quite dull and boring if they didn't have different weights of
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's ingrained in me, in terms of, and I had a really good foundation experience. It was just all life drawing, quite grueling actually, and it was all this weight of mark,
Yeah.
and it was, and even, you're only, how old are you on your foundation, 18 or whatever, and you were critiqued, the drawings were up on the wall, and you were told if they weren't very good. So it's that real, I've got a lot to thank that tutor for actually, when I was young. Yeah, for it's because all this mark making, it was taught to me, and I just carried on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess you see in a lot of the illustrators, especially like when we look through Instagram or whatever,
Yeah.
is sometimes I see them trying to go through the journeys themselves when they're self-taught, but sometimes you need an outsider to kind of throw you a curveball, to
Yeah.
push you into an area that's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
for you to learn something for the future. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the beauty of sort of art education, is to go, well, no, have you looked at it from this perspective? Even if you don't like it,
Yeah.
it's good to try it. And
Yeah.
today we're going to do this. And then that builds up your sort of vocabulary for
Yeah.
making. And I think a lot of the younger creatives who go, well, why do I need to go to college, or why do I need to do this? You need that mentorship to just go,
Yeah.
well, no, today we're going to do this, and this is how we're
Mhm.
going to do it, and we're going to go through this journey, and you're going to not use colored pencils, or you're not going to use this, and you're going to be
Yeah.
messy, and you're going to
Yeah.
cut it up, and you're going to
Yeah.
destroy what you've done. And I
Yeah.
think it's a challenge. And I remember lots of people when I was at Kingston having breakdowns, and they were like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. And I feel that that, like you're talking about, the push and pull and play with line, and thickness and weight of line is so important. And I remember at college, like we looked at Hockney a lot, and I guess now looking at the negative to Hockney sometimes is he had a very fragile line, which was very almost flat, because he used a pen line, even though Hockney, he's a sort of master
Yeah.
of his own.
Yeah.
we really were focusing on like the etching drawings, which are
Yeah.
very sort of one-dimensional line, all very
Yeah.
similar. But he
Yeah.
uses sort of cross-hatching and other forms to bring things back. Like he uses shadow and tone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yours is
Yeah.
very different. It's weight of line, which is
Yeah.
where this fashion illustrator comes in. The
Yeah.
weight of the line. So you'll see David Downton and people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plays with weight of line. And I
Mm.
think that's maybe from the fashion illustrator's point of view. And
Yeah.
then I guess coming to the final piece, the winning piece, like on the evening, as you said, this was a piece that you nearly going to get rid of, or it was
Yeah.
sort of piece that was lost and then
Yeah.
found again.
Yeah. It was I mean, as I think everyone knows the story is probably listening to this, but it's you know, I did want to draw something to celebrate, you know, going into 20 years of teaching. And I didn't even realize until LinkedIn reminded me of that fact, you know, and it says, congratulations, you've been teaching this long. I thought, oh my God. So I did this. It is a toile. I mean, for those of you that don't know, when I do teach fashion design, and I work tirelessly to get the students to draw from toiling, which is you know, obviously calico practice garments on the stand. And it's my thing that I've tried to do for years, because it really improves design development. If you're drawing, you're coming up with more ideas. Now, I think students are more than willing to draw for final lineups, portfolio, what have you. But this, you've really got to push this element. And I find, I suppose it was quite personal, because I work a lot with calico with the students, a lot on the stand. And when I'm not a flat pattern cutter, I you know, that's somebody else's role. If I teach shape, it is all three-dimensional, and it is moulaged on the stand. And this is a perfect example of this, because it's a Rei Kawakubo piece, you know, the sort of master of it all, really. And you know, students are always inspired by her work. So this was I think there's a lot tied up in this with me, I suppose. You know, it was quite emotional to do it, and I was quite emotional when I won the award, because it just means so much. You know, all the slog. You know, fashion, it's not easy.
Yeah.
I've had my ups and downs. I have to say that, you know, there's times when I thought I've had enough of this. So it means a lot. This drawing means a lot, and or painting, and the award means a lot. So, and the reference is from, I can't, the type, it was from like a retrospective of her work in 2017 at the Met, I think, in America. I have seen her toiles, but I didn't see this exhibition. I have seen plenty of them in the past. But yeah, so the reference, I think the exhibition was called Undone or something like that. So it was about process,
Yeah.
which I'm very much into. You know, I find toiles, I find research so much more exciting than final garments.
Yeah.
You know, I just do, you know, and I don't think students do, because they like the gloss of the photo shoot. They like going to the photography studio and posing and all of that, nice photographs. But I just love process, and that's kind of what I'm in my element at the moment. You know, now, you know, I just work on the collections. I work on more the process and the illustration. Not to say I've not done a bit of everything over the years, but now I'm in that position where I can do all the what I consider the sort of real creative stuff. So it's quite nice, but it's taken me a long time to get to this point.
A lot of struggle, but
a lot of struggle, yeah. And a struggle I've had to go at, you know, even more what I consider the more commercial fashion illustration I have done when I worked in London. But then sometimes I think my personality wouldn't have been great as a full-time illustrator anyway, because I like people, I like being part of a team, I like the energy of the students, you know, so it's all worked out in the end.
It's very, I guess it's quite difficult because I've worked at a few designers, and
Yeah,
as a sort of more crazy, inconsistent image maker,
yeah,
people struggle with you because you're like, well, we could try it like this. Let's try top,
yeah,
Conte. Let's try paint. Let's try
yeah,
that. And it doesn't resonate so well on social media because people really want to have a tone of voice that's similar.
yeah,
You have to
yeah,
kind of ignore social media a little bit because
yeah,
it's a crazy space, and I feel
yeah,
that you can easily be sucked into the 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 beautifying of images, and I feel that working around algorithms and all that garbage.
mm,
Yes, you will get more followers, but I just don't feel that's the journey. Just go for a
yeah,
shorter journey and slug it out and enjoy the
yeah,
process. And
yeah,
I feel that with your work, it's good, and it's good, and you only need a few patrons, you only need a few people interested in your work to make it really sell, which is great, and
yeah, yeah.
that's a really inspiring part to what you're doing now. And I guess because what one bit I've been quizzing myself over recently is and Tracy's on here as well, and she might be able to chip in. Is I've been speaking to the team in SCAD, and we've got Andrew Fionda, who is
Mm.
running the department there. And I remember he gave a lecture when I was teaching, when he was part of Piers Fionda,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he at RCA when you were there?
No, it's a little, just that little bit
Okay.
older than me.
Yeah.
But I remember my friends doing that circuit of work placements with those designers at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Julia McDonald and people like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
all very, very similar. And they, he loves fashion illustration, and he really pushes his students to it. We had one of the students from Parsons, because we have Richard Haynes, who's in New
mm,
York. So you have to have these sort of pioneer teachers who are really like lambasting the students to say, come on, get involved,
yeah,
understand about what the possibilities are.
yeah,
um, but I still find that the students are very reluctant to
mm,
go for it, albeit
yeah,
I don't know. I don't feel that we've ticked the right boxes with the youth yet, and the youngsters,
no,
and I don't know. That's the area that still I'm trying
yeah,
to work out what's the journey of the students going forward, and are they all going to start using Cloy 3D? And
yeah,
I think it's nice to dance between both spaces, but
yeah,
you're having to fight with the students to get them to draw and see the power of drawing through and researching through drawing, rather than
yeah,
just
yeah,
drawing is, oh well, this is really difficult, it
yeah,
takes too long, and I don't see
yeah,
the point, and it's just for
yeah.
artists. And
Yeah.
I
No,
guess that's
I
the
think
hard part.
the way I sell it is it will make you a better designer, and also that you might find this quite interesting. But I mean, we're with the British Fashion Council, so we do, we get insights into what they're looking for in graduates, and there is a shift to hand drawing now, and there's been two luxury brand graduate jobs just very recently asking for hand drawing, not a mention of Adobe Illustrator, just hand drawing skills. So,
Yeah.
and these are big luxury brands. So it it is a request, and they want to see the ideas, and they want to see the quick ideas generation. Now don't get me wrong, I could rewind 10 years and I almost thought, am I even relevant here anymore? It's all gone a certain way, but there seems to be this shift at the moment in what people want from the students.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, like when I worked at Dior and at Tom Ford,
yeah,
you were only allowed to draw by hand,
yeah.
and it was
This is
all
what they
by
say.
hand.
Yeah,
And I feel that the people that are coming through now, the designers who
yeah,
grew at college, who understand drawing, are like,
yeah,
we must have drawing, because what happens is all the portfolios become very homogenized,
Yeah.
and it's like looking at the same thing 1,000 times over.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I might as well employ anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I found that at Graduate Fashion Week, I see a lot of work, I see a lot of portfolios, whether they're digital, whether they're hand done, but it got to a stage of too polished, where people were then only looking at the physical. This is not, I've noticed this. You get all these laptops set up, screens, log on, and it's so polished and it's so perfect that it's almost got boring to me anyway. And that's, don't get me, this is my opinion. I know people, that the realists out there will think my work's total rubbish, and that's fine. That's I'm not bothered. But what I am passionate about is, and I'm quite happy that people are saying they do want these drawing skills and this quickness and this speed. And I do have the battle with the students. I'm like, on Procreate, they love Procreate, but which is fine, but just for my lesson, just put it away and try something else. And if you've tried it, you've tried it. If you don't like it, doesn't matter.
I for lots of my students, I would say, you will stand out if you have all these elements to you, because the normal person will use Procreate, they'll use all of these skills, but they won't have the fundamental knowledge of what a pencil line is if they've never done it. They won't understand about mark making. That knowledge is not there. So I think that just drawing, and I think the loss of the foundation is a shame as well.
It's a tragedy.
It is. It gave young people the ability to go mental in the drawing or creative process, and not have the pressure of college. So anyway, we could talk.
Sorry.
No, but it's great because you're a lecturer, and we want to celebrate both academics, lecturers, education, and also we want to celebrate professionals and amateurs and all these opportunities for different people. And it's good to hear kind of what's coming through, and whether the students will listen, that there is a demand now for hand drawing, and if they want to work at these high-end brands, they're going to have to they're going to have to get with it. And
well, we've got one on second interview at a luxury Italian brand, and it's all hand drawn, so there you go.
I guess they just have to hear it from the outsiders, because they never believe the tutors. And that's the usual thing. But Caroline, we tried to keep it short, but well done.
Thank you.
And it was great to see you on the night in the flesh. And it was a shame Tracy couldn't be there. And
I know,
and I can see Tomeo on here as well. And both mark makers, both hand people that draw by hand. And I don't know if Tracy wants to say anything, because you're on here, Tracy.
I'm here. I am here.
Hi.
Yeah. I just want to say, I do actually really love Caroline's work, and I think it's a well-deserved winner. And for me, I'm a bit old school as well, so I love all the classical references, and I struggle with that illustrations / art thing, and
it's a struggle.
And well, not struggle, but it's always a sort of a tension there, isn't there? And so
you almost feel you feel like you can't say the word art when you've been a designer and you understand design development, all the rest of it. It seems a funny word to say, but no, I think we obviously both have that love for art history and color and mark making and paint and layers, and it's hugely important.
When we were at Fashion Scout and Tracy came, and it was refreshing to see. Before you came, Tracy, I was like saying to everyone, just get on with it and get dirty, and the models was on, and I was like, you're missing it. And it really is a whole experience of drawing backstage and capturing moments and saying, okay, well, I maybe work like Richard Haynes, when I spoke to him, he said what he does is he photographs the image, he draws the basic silhouette to get the mark down, and then he goes back to his flat or studio, and then he reworks on top of it. So he gets the magic of the moment.
Yeah.
And I found that a really interesting one, because some people feel that they need to deliver on the day or finish on the day, and it isn't the case. Like sometimes you, and I just said, like when we got there, guys, just draw a few drawings really quick, like life drawing, and get used to the space.
Yeah.
They were getting stuff out. I said, no, there's no time. You've literally got, imagine you're being attacked. And you just need to just start attacking back. And I felt that that's kind of, and you must have seen it, Tracy. I got a really, I don't know if you like it or not, but I love it. And I think there's a great picture of you like drawing with the pastels, and it looked great for me. Someone who's really in the moment, drawing away. And
I did not know you were filming at that point.
I was filming because I wanted to capture all of these little moments, and it was so important because sometimes people don't realize that getting there and drawing and drawing with pastels and maybe not being so perfect all the time really mattered to me, and it then helps educate those who don't understand what's to come. And them little pictures are you might say, oh well, that's not my best angle or whatever, but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the whole picture, and that's really what resonates for me. So it was great to see that, and the sort of process that you went through, and it's inspired a few people that you probably don't know who've gone on and done sketchbook work, who send me stuff. So you don't realize what you do has a knock-on effect to other people. Who one girl went to Fashion Week, and she said, I saw what she did, and I drew with my pastels, and I was drawing really fast, and then cool hunting, and I was like, great, you're now using all these new words are really relevant, and I guess that's what we want to. We have to keep the kind of movement going. So anyway, thank you. It's been great to speak to you, and it's great to hear that you're getting better and Tracy's getting better. And well done for hiding in the cupboard, Caroline. You can get back to them. And we'll see you soon. And we're planning, Fashion Scout there's something coming for February. They've got some plans as well for us. And it's nice that they're really embracing the whole experience, because wherever you draw, we've got free access, and it was great. So if you want to get in, Caroline, if you come down, you can find the time. It would be great to see you. But anyway,
all right, lovely.
Have a good day, and thank you for speaking to us. And
thank you.
Well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.